You see, even though biological sciences have progressed so well and done so well in really working out the nitty-gritty, there are some areas where they have, in a way, kind of fuzzed the answer. This is it. One area is this. You see, the idea that everything is happening mechanically in your body and there is no coordinating faculty is what the modern biologists will subscribe to. But we from many traditions say, no, there is something that is coordinating every aspect of your being, and that we can define as a life force. But the thing is, it is not a physical force in the sense there's electrical or chemical activity. The force I'm talking about is, if you like, something that is very complex. You see, look, some of the difficult areas in modern science, or say life science especially, are the areas where we are dealing with complexification. This is a new term science has kind of recently developed. Complexification. When there are lots of things interacting, for example, acting and interacting in a non-linear manner, means this thing doesn't create this, they both interact and produce something quite out of the ordinary. This is called complex phenomena. Whenever you have this kind of complexification that you want to explore in science, science puts the hands up saying, we don't know how to analyze it. It's not non-analytic. You can't analyze it anymore. This is modern science. Recognizes its limitation when it's dealing with complex phenomena, and life is certainly a complex phenomena. So the workings of different part of the body, how well they are coordinated, who does that? It is actually, even though modern science would try and forbid off saying we don't want to discuss it even, there's nothing, it's just individual cells interacting. There is something much more at play when we are talking about individual soul or individual person living in a body, and that is what we would call, if you like, the thing that is, it's not a separate force, it is, if you like, complexification. You see, the complex thing that we observe as life is difficult to reduce or present in a reductionist manner, and this non-reductionist idea is what defines life. So it will always remain a puzzle. There will be no clear-cut analytic answer regarding what is life or what is coordinating faculty that you possess. It will always remain crucially invisible and hide behind this lovely word, complexification. And science puts its hands up saying we can't deal with it. So that's for science to show its limitation and say, when it comes to life, what is life? We don't know exactly how to qualify it or analyze it. But it is something that we somehow intuitively know is something very precious that we call our being.
Okay, that's very interesting. So really the issue about life and death becomes less important in the Indic tradition, because we don't really know how to define life, and we don't really know how to define the soul, and we can't really prove that there are many other lives in the form of reincarnation. That's a very interesting way of looking at.
You see, the thing is that we didn't. The fact that we can't define it doesn't mean that we are basically washing our hands of it. To the contrary, it's saying that this is so intriguing that our normal faculty is not able to get a grip on it. That's what we are saying. So it's remaining crucially invisible. This is not its weakness. This is its very strength.
Yeah.
It remains crucial. This trying to kind of grab or get a handle on what is life, etc., has always puzzled philosophers and thinkers. It will continue to puzzle all of us until we come to the nitty-gritty, and until we kind of transcend, if you like, the limited vision we have regarding reality using our rational faculties, and fall back on this something that is experiential. So at the experiential level, says the Indic tradition, you can come face to face with what is this idea of a soul, what is this idea of your essential spiritual nature. All these things are not airy-fairy. They are something to be experienced perhaps more intensely than your ability to experience the empirical world in front of you. They're insisting on that. They're in fact saying that what we are saying is, at the moment you can take it with a pinch of salt, or with a bag of salt, some of the stuff. But if you really are serious, and if you are now attracted to this phenomena, you have to progress further, and rather than just focus on intellectual gymnastics, take it a level further and say, all these ideas must become experiential for me. Yeah. So if I believe I'm the spirit, I'm the life force, I must come face to face, or if you like, encounter it firsthand. And only when I encounter it firsthand can I be sure about what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it is insisting. It's not saying we are running away. It's saying that, look, we just gave you the idea. But if you want to really verify it, You need to put your, if I can use the word, suppose you want to verify there is electricity in the plug, you need to put your finger in it and experience it for yourself. And you say, yeah, my hair is standing up now.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm suggesting. I'm saying this is not something you are running away from. We are embracing it, saying that this is the beginning of a spiritual journey. So you are in a way kind of thrilled by the whole idea, but the real thrill comes when you actually experience it for yourself. It has to be first-hand. Encounters of the first kind is what we are searching for.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
Talks on Hinduism, sponsored by People Care, encouraging caring for the elderly in their own homes. For more information, please visit peoplecare.com.